Tembakazi, who is infiltrating these organizations? What were you talking about?
We're talking about the reversal of the transformation gains, Karema, in that over time, as South Africa, we have been very vigilant and wanting to fast-track transformation, but we have seen a reversal of the trend where you find that where we were in transformation, we are now actually going backwards. And we are saying that this is not good for the good of South Africa, this is not good for the cohesion, for the social cohesion, and for where we want to be in terms of our economy.
Now, in an article, the sectors that you were speaking about, you spoke about agriculture, financial services, manufacturing, and mining. Are these the sectors that the BMF believe are rolling back gains in terms of transformation?
Yes and no, Karema. There are some sectors where transformation has just been slow from the word go, and there are those sectors that we feel that where we've had certain gains in transformation, now they are being reversed. If I can take the example of mining, for example, in mining, there's been a very slow uptake in terms of transformation in mining, caused by the skills issue, caused by the past issues. So we are saying that we are still finding that we are not transforming as much as we should transform. Instead, what has happened in mining is that you find that there's an overrepresentation of white women, which sort of like defeats the whole purpose of having the equity, equity plans that would see that the majority of people are integrated in the mainstream of the economy. So those are the trends that actually really worry us as the BMF. In financial services, for instance, you do find that there is a reversal of transformation, where before, if we can think back to when people acquired stakes in banking, some have not paid for those stakes. The time has now come out for them to buy out of those. For instance, after the 10 years, they cash in on that. And then you have a principle of saying once empowered, always empowered, which then defeats the whole purpose, and we see this reversal in transformation.
Now, you were saying that in mining, for example, we find white women overrepresented. Now, of course, transformation is not just about racial transformation, but also about gender transformation. Do you think that gender as a category or as a variable in the transformation pack is leading to this overrepresentation?
Karema, what has been happening is that we are talking about that in terms of the employment equity, which designates the categories to say that demographically this is the representation of a certain group and a certain gender. So what you are then saying is that while you have seen that there's transformation in the white women that are actually getting in there, it's sort of like ensuring that you're kicking out or ensuring that the black people, whether it's males or black females, are not necessarily getting the same status in transformation. So which is why we're then saying, if for instance, your targets are saying white women are about 5.9% of the population, in terms of the employment equity plan, then they should be represented at about the same as their demographics. So you do find that they're actually currently in mining sitting at more than that, and we're talking not at all levels, but at certain levels on the management levels.
What does the BMF believe is the reason for white women being overrepresented? That's what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to say is, are you of the belief that by appointing white women, there is a deliberate attempt to keep out blacks in general and black women in particular?
We think that it is more of a ticking the box and the unwillingness to ensure total integration. We come from a history of racial bias, and it does not look like that history has left us yet, because you can see that instead of going according to the demographics, you then sort of like have a replacement in terms of the transformation targets, as long as you've ticked the box that, yes, I have so many women. And that, unfortunately for us, is a worrying trend, because what it says is that South Africa at some stage is not integrating all their races in terms of transformation. And once you have issues like that, you'll find that there'll be anarchy. You want to avoid a situation of mass disgruntlement, because you know that with mass disgruntlement usually comes revolutions. So we are saying that the unwillingness of the mining industry, especially to transform, is actually not leading us to social cohesion, and is actually undermining the transformation in the economy.
Now, obviously, transformation, like I said, has many boxes to tick.
Yes.
There's the question of gender, there's the question of race, there's the question of disability, there's the question of generational mix, but there's also the question of ethos. For example, the recent presentation by, Empowerdex to the Portfolio Committee found that some of the issues that we need to address via empowerment is not being addressed. For example, issues around local procurement. There's no automatic link between black economic empowerment and local procurement, or black economic empowerment and job creation, for instance, which is one of our most challenging, problems in the country. How is the BMF looking at equity in terms of employment, addressing the issues around things like, local procurement and also job creation?
In fact, Karema, for the BMF, we usually have a 3-year strategy where we say, yes, we've got all these BE codes, but we are going to look at certain codes. The year before this, the term before this, previously, we're looking at skills development and issues of employment equity. This term, which is 2009 to 2012, we looked at enterprise development, we looked at issues of ownership, we looked at issues of preferential procurement. And yes, it's a very worrying trend, because for me, it makes sense that enterprise development should be part of your business imperative. It's not it's something that you should do on the periphery. So what you do is that if you want to transform, you look at your preferential procurement, you look at your enterprise development, and that those are, I would say, your low-hanging fruits, because it does not take you away from the value chain of the business that you actually need to operate in. Let me make an example. If you are, for instance, in the motor industry, what you would look at is, who are your suppliers of the parts? It is not going into a whole lot of issues about transport and all that stuff. So you say, what is the core of my business, and what can I procure from the core to ensure that there's issues of transformation? Yes, we have been worried as well as far as local procurement is concerned, because local procurement does not necessarily mean black economic empowerment. And you will find as a result that the people that have always been ready, that have had businesses, are the usual suspects. So if you are sort of like substituting BE with local procurement, it is also not going to help you to achieve your BE goals.
Now, of course, the Black Management Forum engages government actively in terms of advocating for change. In your view, what has government's performance been up until this point in terms of getting companies to actually comply with the various measures to ensure that we have greater equity and that we have greater transformation?
Karema, we have even come up with a statement that we need to have penalties, because we have had all this period where industry or private sector is supposed to transform. But without those penalties, it seems like it is being looked at as a nice to do and not a business imperative. So we're saying, in fact, that if it means the penalties should be about 10% of your turnover, not of your profit, of your turnover, just to ensure that it actually happens, that is what you should be looking at. Fortunately, we have found that, for instance, the DTI is actually listening and is actually looking at ensuring that there's penalties that are part and parcel of that.
No, of course, black business doesn't come without its own internal politics. We know that the BMF is deeply divided. We've got the Black Business Council on the other hand. How are you able to engage private, traditional white capital, government, if your own house is not in order as black business?
Okay, let me make a correction of saying it's not the BMF that is divided. You are saying that obviously business is not homogeneous. We understand that, whether you're a white business or a traditionally
But why
business.
are black businesses not coming together to make their voices louder? Why are you not in one forum?
In so far as that is concerned, we are actually doing that. For instance, Karema, with the Black Business Council, it is an amalgamation of all these black businesses. The Black Management Forum has its interests, which is about management and managerial leadership. Your Black Lawyers Association has a specific interest. Your APSIP, which is your Black Investment Professionals, has got a specific aim but we come up under one umbrella. So it is true that we have realized that we need a strong voice, and it is for that reason then that you have a Black Business Council, which is an umbrella body of all these Black business organizations, but they have specialization in different sectors. So we are making our voices bigger by actually coming under that.
What is the way forward for you guys?
For the Black Management Forum, we'll continue in transformation. We'll continue drilling the issues of transformation and developing managerial leadership, because we believe that managerial leadership is actually quite important. When we look at issues of lack of leadership, for instance, if I had to look at Marikana for that matter, I would argue that the issue, part of all the issues that are there, one of them is the lack of leadership, because as a leader you should be able to anticipate that these are some of the issues or expectations that are not being fulfilled, and you then plan on how to fulfill those. So as a Black Management Forum, we keep on saying we need to ensure that we develop managers that are going to be able to take our economy forward.
Tembakazi, thank you so much for coming in. We have to leave it there. That was the Deputy President of the Black Management Forum, Tembakazi Mnyaka, assessing the pace of transformation in South Africa.